Good morning from New York. It's a cold morning in New York, and I'm having Nestle chocolate. Really? How long has it been since you have got Nestle's chocolate? I don't know. I'm a little on the fat side in the middle, so I'm just using water. Hmm. If you add this with a little instant decaf coffee and just a little cinnamon, not bad. Thank you, Nestle. Anyway, I not I was not paid for that. I like that, right from the heart. Anyway, today's subject is NDEs, psychic phenomena, and IMC, which I'll use from time to time as an abbreviation for inner mind communication. And I'm going to discuss, first of all, the overlap between my experiences, uh, NDEs, and IMC. The short uh, abbreviation of that is empathy. In my experience, is when we tried to hear the voice of love, we had some odd things happen in the group I was in. For me, it was like a presence coming through that is so amazingly empathetic, self-sacrificing. It was a feeling of such love that you would consider dying or being seriously hurt uh, in order to extend that love and that help to that person. And there were these psychic elements to that. Well, and that's a lot what you have with NDEs. So this empathy that people seem to have for all of the characters in their experience. Um, and some pretty amazing things. Knowledge that you don't know where it came. How did you know that? And hmm, so that's very interesting. That's my first statement. Okay, let's go to the arguments pro and con. Can these things be explained away? Much of it can, possibly could. Some of it that's very difficult to explain away might be paranormal, you know, but still not proof of life after death. A, a voice from beyond. Yeah. So the interesting thing, Neil deGrasse Tyson said that there were experiments with the people trying to see whether NDEs were real, and they would put a sign on top of the person, which they should be able to see if they're actually roaming around and up above their body and all of this. And when they had NDEs reported, they could not tell what was on the sign. So you'd say, oh, slam dunk. There's nothing to this. But on the other hand, you have all of these psychic things happen. And my take on it is that it could be an overlap. If it's psychic, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you peered into death, some process leading to death. That's supernatural. May not be so. Things that I've heard. Okay, I didn't mention IMC with my comparisons there. IMC is largely about empathy, and the roots of empathy. So that's the overlap there. Going right along, it could be that psychic things do happen, but it's not proven. What about the psychic things that happen knowing that someone has died that you didn't know they died, and and supposedly, the person who died appears to the person you're married. Well, yeah, you could explain it why. But after a while, you end up doing a lot of explaining away. Yeah. Maybe the simple answer, true. Um, but I don't live my life betting one way or the other. I know that as you go into yourself with IMC, you find that whatever the self is in you is a bit of an illusion. And there's a lot of evidence. And so that coming to an end is it's not so pregnant. It's all the fireworks up here go out. Now, when there's absolute death, yeah, you don't find people coming back. It's not like they actually died. They got close. But did they die? Depends on your definition of death. But physiologically and so on, there's a point at which people do not come back. Is that evidence against the NDEs? Not necessarily. Other attacks that you could make on the NDEs is the simplistic kind of notions that people have about some kind of process or something that they went through, you kind of wonder what, in the world that they're in, what is gravity like there? It is, it's like they're walking around. What are they walking on? Um, but you can say this is just, the interface between what we understand and what we're comfortable with, and a process which is perhaps beyond description. Yes, but it can sound pretty silly sometimes. Oh, there's a processing building. It's a building, but it's not really a building. Well, that gets closer to what, last thing that it said. It's the person's interpretation of things. Um, so here's the deal. The path of the mystic is not about knowing things, um, not about objective reality necessarily. It's about um, having an experience, a sense of joining with that which is greater than yourself, which the entirety of things, the universe or universes, or the absolute truth. And in the process of IMC, you can personify that absolute truth, part of yourself that's creative, more virtuous, and outside of our timeline, sense of a timeline. And there's some physicists who argue that consciousness blocks of reality. Interesting. So in that picture, wow, that's quite a stretch. But some of the things would seem to be last havens for free will or God, some supernatural kind of way. So, yeah, that can be an argument against NDEs and so on. But there are healing aspects to that process, which is kind of amazing. And there's a pattern involved with that healing, which IMC points out, I think, rather clearly. The problem, life itself is all about needs and getting them met, and experiencing that in various ways. And there's a lot of needs to have. And this also is for social animals like ourselves, empathy is incredibly important. IMC teaches three forms. By the way, I got this by inspiration, which was similar to the experience, in the sense of a tremendous love and psychic things happen. That bit of overlap. Anyway, there are three: creative, objective, and and compassionate, and from these virtues evolve, and from these virtues, understanding love, a whole philosophy emerge, which seems to be the philosophy that people come back with. The philosophy that I think I encountered, my experience. So, what is the problem? What's the fly in the ointment? Why are things good? Well, I would point to damaged faith and love. Life is about participating in give and take of love. And that is the love flow that you'll hear me mention now. And what gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of that is the damaged faith and love. And what do I mean by that damage? I mean, when is it damaging? Just a little bit of a blockage. When is it damaging health? Physical health? Well, I point to helplessness. The helplessness to get your needs met to a point you look at empathy, people who sacrifice their lives for others. And so there goes that fluidity of what you call self. We are all one. That's another experience. We are all connected. But anyway, damaged faith and love has to do with our communications. These communications between our pragmatic self and the three those elements that are part of the three empathies. New word. You know, that's all part of that flow of love. And that's all part of growing, expanded sense of self. And also a diminishing of egoism. And an openness to change, to healthy change. Now how do you deal with this helplessness? You know, how do we helplessness all take work? Well, practicing empathy. Empathy is something you can learn. It's not the damage. There's some things that damage can destroy. Usually that remains to some extent. And yeah, so let's get to the point. You have to unlearn the helplessness involved with that flow of love. Helplessness to get the love that you needed, the helplessness to have the joy of meeting the needs of others. All of this, these are traumatic. kind of helplessness is a real problem. Um, there is a journey in this healing process. When you do all of the perspectives, um, you experience all of the perspectives in IMC. Um, what that does is, in a very comforting way, the whole purpose is to try and comfort yourself. But these attempts break down the defenses against feeling the helplessness, which puts you in touch with the real needs so that you can resolve those needs as losses. They haven't been fully processed, you were helpless. And that you cannot stand um, at a time when you truly are helpless. And that's how healing is upon reflection. You have to be in a safe place in order to feel that helplessness and learn it. But feeling that helplessness doesn't mean you're trying to feel helpless. It means slowly eroding what the brain did, stop you from harmful anxiety from that helplessness. What does the brain do? The brain steps in with symbolic need, symbolic circumstance, so that you can have a hope of fixing the problem, attaining a goal. But it's a symbolic goal. Just as money is symbolic of real need, as Jesus said, supposedly, that money or mammon is the root of all evil. Okay? Symbolic need does not satisfy. Therefore, you have addictions. You have addictions to this symbolic struggle. These perspectives, because you're doing all of them together, especially, that's why they're more powerful when you're all of them together. You're not giving any space for the symbolic false renditions of your history to hide. You don't give them any space to function. So, trying to comfort from these perspectives actually erodes those symbolic fences, which allow you to slowly get in touch with feelings of helplessness and unlearn the helplessness. And the journey of the mystic healing journey is that you feel that original need that you had that was attached to helplessness by this process. And then you grieve, realize those needs are, and you need to grieve and let go, because you also then need to forgive. You can't forgive from your heart till you let go of the loss, the hurt from that. as long as you're still feeling that, it's hard to forgive anybody and yourself involved with it. So you move from grieving to what? Well, you move from grieving to repentance, to forgiveness, and then to repentance. So it's feeling the original need, realizing it's a loss, grief, and forgiveness, and then repentance. Repentance is the hardest thing of all to do because it means realizing how the hurting you hurt other people. It involves a very deep personal forgiveness. And it involves a confrontation with the idea that you were monstrous. You don't want to be a monster. You don't want to, nobody wants to feel that. That's isolation from society, and that is very hard to feel. And it's the last thing that people feel. And is it a one-time only thing? No, we go through this process many times, and deeper and deeper. And with that, the repentance becomes deep. And but when you have tears of remorse, then you're no longer, to some degree, a person who did this bad. So this is the path of mystic healing. And this affects your physical well-being and your emotional well-being, so many other things. Something you can train in, like yoga or meditations. There are aspects of those things involved with IMC. But it is a release, a rebirth. And a chance for real change. And all of the practices are important in the process. And I hope that, you can forgive me for being 70 years old. Missing the point. I'm losing my train of thought. I want younger minds to take this over. Yeah. This is something, as I was about to allude to, was it is a training. And you can have trainers who've been through it. And there's a space for that. And it's a space there for people who are capable of handling it. And the definition of it being a more serious disease is the inability to train in the first place. And it's at that point where you need professionals to step in, use the various aspects of the system appropriately. For instance, for people who are psychotic, versus they need professional help. And the one thing that they can do um, is the kid counselor communication. Sometimes in the past, two psychoanalysts and husband called it the big little technique. And that seems to be helpful to people who are beyond their own. Then you have all these individual other diseases. That this in no way replaces professional help, but it can educate professionals. The mystic path is for everyone, but some may need some extra. And for those who are in a position where even professional help fails, there's still hope for the future. And that future is coming at us quicker than we think. You want to be ego transcendent, study the findings of what is concerned with the brain. So that's something you can do with practicing IMC. The IMC connects to a lot of other things for which there is a lot of evidence. But it is different in that it puts things together in a particular way. In an impacting way. So, as I like to say at the end of long dissertations, which thank you for listening. And I like to say the word namaste. Thank you, Nestle. Anyway, why? Namaste essentially means that amazing perfect love flow in me. It's understanding you. Joins us all together. Namaste.